Hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Lisa Herrick, and I started 31st Street about 5 years ago, and we have grown and grown and grown, and we're going strong. One thing I just wanted to do today quickly, not take much time, but periodically, it just feels important to introduce some of the folks on our leadership team, just because we have quite a few new members over the last few months. And even though the photographs of our leadership team are on our website, 31ststreet.org, so you can see what people look like, I just wanted to go around and just have people say hello. So not all of our leaders are here today, but I'm just going to call on you just to unmute yourself, say hello, so your box lights up and wave so people can see you. And I'm just going to go randomly to the people that I see. Jim Shelton, you'll be hearing from him. You hear from him every month. He presents the PowerPoint, so you're going to hear from him today. Michal Freedman. Hello, Michael.
Hi.
And Jan White.
Hello.
And Amy Kossoff.
Hi, everyone.
Don Medaglia.
Hi there.
And Adele Dari.
Hi, and welcome.
And George Hastings.
Hi, folks. Thanks for coming.
And Joanne Harris.
Hi, everybody. Welcome.
Michelle Heinbach.
Hi, all. Nice to see you.
Dan Weistrup.
Hey, everyone.
Dan Pence.
Hi, everybody. Welcome.
My husband, Dre Samuelson.
Howdy.
And is there anybody else who's on who I haven't seen? I think I got everybody. We have a couple of people. Roberta McInerney and Aaron Hamburger are missing today, but they're also leaders. So thanks for saying hello. Today we are going to be meeting with Karen Nussbaum, who is the founder of Working America, and you're going to hear all about what Working America is. It's a really fantastic organization that we have been partnering with. Jim is going to talk about that, and then you'll hear about it from Karen. We're going to hear about a volunteer project that's going to get going, and you'll hear that from Michal Freedman a little bit later. But before we jump in, as I usually do, I just wanted to say a few words to get us going. And I wrote it down uncharacteristically because I didn't want to forget some of the stuff I wanted to say. I realized I could not begin the meeting today without talking, or at least mentioning, Ukraine and Russia's invasion of it. I'm no expert on that subject. But one thing that seems clear to me is that among all of the reasons that Putin has obsessed about invading Ukraine, one is surely that Ukraine is a struggling democracy, and it must be threatening to have a democracy so close. We all know that authoritarianism has been on the march around the globe over recent years, including in our own country. And we really have been living in very scary times for several years now. As a psychologist, I know that humans need our defenses to ward off against anxiety and fear. You cannot successfully invent the wheel if you're only focused on being terrified of the saber-toothed tiger. You cannot go to work, feed your kids, pay your mortgage if you're only focused on the many threats to our world and to America. We need our avoidance, our repression, our distraction. We need to be able to think about buying a new pair of shoes and finding a nice piece of fish for dinner. And I am all for using our defenses. But the beauty of 31st Street is that we are here to help us find shelter and find purpose, particularly when we feel anxious, which these days is sort of all the time. We're here to help us find effective ways to act upon our world when we are ready to pivot from self-protection to competency, when we can ease up on our defenses and feel empowered to act. Alone, the world is really frightening these days. But within our group, we can feel powerful. We are making change. Don't doubt it. The dollars that people are donating, the volunteer hours you're putting in, we are making change right now in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in North Carolina, and we're moving towards Georgia. Your knocking on doors will make a difference. Your letter writing will make a difference. Everything you do within this group will make a difference. When we all read the news and feel frightened and alone, please remember, we are here. We are together. We have a lot of work to do, and we can do it. With that, Jim Shelton.
Great. Okay, so let's do it. I'm Jim Shelton, the political analyst, and I'm a retired epidemiologist. For those of you who don't really know me, and I have to bring up my slides because that's kind of the only way I can get things done that I want to get done. So hopefully people can see this. People see it and hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to jump right in on the action and start in. Many of you kind of know this, but for those of you maybe don't know this that well, just to go over our call it our investment approach. I look at what we do as investing, both in our money and our time. And we look hard for strategic opportunities, and a lot of that is looking for things that other people are overlooking. We call it zigging when other people are zagging. Oh, I don't know why this is. We do due diligence too. We spend a lot of time on our team, drilling down and looking at the various opportunities. It's not just something sounds good and we think it's good. We spend a lot of time talking to key informants, looking at data. And a related point is that timing in the cycle, the election cycle, and in the span of elections over the next decade is all very important to think about. And that's one reason why we're focusing so much on infrastructure right now, because it takes time to do infrastructure and we think it can work. And that's why our priority continues to be North Carolina, year-round, on-the-ground, volunteer-led organizing, but investing in the Democratic parties to do that. So just a little picture of infrastructure, a reminder, takes time to do it, but it makes a lot of difference when it's done. A review again of what I see as the major problems with the way we conduct elections, because those are actually opportunities. Those weaknesses, if you will, if we can affect those things, that can make a lot of difference. So we have the problem, we are captive typically of the election cycle, the boom and bust. That's why we're doing infrastructure now. There are many siloed campaigns. It's amazing. I never knew this, but across the state, there's a zillion, many hundreds of campaigns, separate campaigns in election year oftentimes. And part of the problem with that too is not just that there's so many and they don't collaborate that much, but it's very top heavy at the top. That a lot of the resources go to the top and not that much to the bottom. And that doesn't help the group effort. Too much money on TV is spent too late. It's a related problem. Canvassing isn't that great. Our stock in trade, we feel like could be a lot better. And weak messaging, which everybody recognizes and everybody kind of has an idea of what it should be, but it's not entirely that clear. So our strategy is try to some extent to address these kind of issues. And we again like to focus. So we focus on the four states that Lisa's already mentioned. And a lot of that is driven by where there are these vital Senate races that we need to win: Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. And as it's not lost on most folks that if we had 2 more Senate seats, we could get so much more done in the current Congress. But we're also keeping our eye on some of the other states. Michigan, we'll talk a little bit about too. Doesn't have a Senate race, but it's got a heck of a lot of other stuff. So a lot of what I do, this is kind of a menu, and I refer to kind of what I do and the people on the state teams particular and other teams is I call it prospecting. We're looking for where are those opportunities? And there's a whole set of these things that, you know, I've got state party infrastructure on the top, this organizing kind of thing, but all these other things, and I won't go into them a lot, mention a couple of them. There are many good grassroots groups out there that are also infrastructure that we think, you know, we are looking for them. We look at working on the Working America, both in terms of their deep canvassing and letter writing and phoning and so forth. Canvassing, we're actually, some of you may know, we did a canvassing video a couple of years ago. We're working with Turn PA Blue on a new canvassing conversational video, which is actually kind of moving along. And we're working on voter registration, particularly high school voter registration. But we're, you know, when we zero in on something, you know, we'll let you know, but just to kind of let you know that we are working on all that. But the thing to bear in mind is that, you know, our strong view is particularly at the margins, that money, especially for top tier races and even some of the mid-tier races, is really not the problem. It's not where the best marginal dollar needs to go, partly because so much other money is going there, which is a good thing. All right, now I do want to shift to North Carolina. We would very much like to advance on our goal of getting to $240,000 for the North Carolina Democratic Party. And we're at about 206 as it stands. But just to remind people, a lot of this was presented in the fundraiser that we had recently, but just to kind of go over again, we've got a valuable open Senate seat. We have a great Democratic governor, but we need to keep the legislature so that he can keep the rogue Republicans at bay. The Supreme Court, 2 Democrats up for election, and it's currently 4 Democrats and 3 Republicans. So that's precarious. That's basically, we got redistricting in North Carolina recently by that Supreme Court that's going to make a difference. I'm going to come back to that. But that's very important. There's other court races. There's some House races we're going to talk about, preparation for 2024. The point is, our approach helps with all of these things. You know, when we're supporting the Democratic Party with this organizing model, it helps all those things. But the other reason is that we feel like we have strong Democratic Party leadership in North Carolina, and our partner SPAN, State Party Advancement Network, says, yeah, there's a good opportunity there, and they're matching our support as well. And we presented this at the fundraiser as well, but many of you may not have seen this, which is that actually North Carolina did surprisingly well in 2020, even though we did really badly in the down ballot legislature races where 31st Street was trying to focus. Actually, we won 4 fairly significant statewide races, and Biden did considerably better than Hillary and didn't do all that bad. And so North Carolina is a purple state, if you will, if we can get things mobilized. So here's Sherry Beasley, our candidate she's going to be the candidate for US Senate. And she's got several advantages going in. First of all, she ran for Supreme Court Chief Justice and only lost by 401 votes. She's well known, she's well respected in the state, and she'll hopefully get a good turnout. She has no major primary opposition, but in contrast, the Republicans are in a real dogfight between the former governor McCrory and the extremist Tea Party congressman Ted Budd. neither one of these is a great candidate, actually, in my opinion. So it gives us a real shot. So that's one reason why we're trying to push for this. Okay, now who knows who this is and who knows why I'm showing this? Most of you know why it is. But the reason I'm showing Kevin McCarthy is because he could be our next speaker. He's the likely person to be our speaker. And that would be a terrible thing. And there is a chance we may not keep the House, but we need to do it as much as we can to do that. So I'm now going to turn to a map and spend a little bit of time. So this is the main technical thing I want to actually focus on in a way in today's session. And I'm hoping people can see at the top these legend kind of things. So this comes from 538. Anybody can go to the website and click on all these things and look at all the House races and where we are in terms of redistricting. Now, let's start at the bottom, because here's something that maybe surprised many people, which is that actually so far, and there are only 6 more states to go, it looks like, there is an increase of 12 Democratic leaning states and a decrease in 5 Republican leaning states. Well, you say, now how can that be? I thought we were going to get these additional seats in Texas and Florida and so forth. Yes, that's true. But in 2010, the Republicans in most of these states did the worst that they could do in gerrymandering to begin with. And secondly, the population growth has come in urban areas and suburban areas for the most part. And so you can only do so much gerrymandering in the rural areas, which is the Republican areas have lost population for the most part. So I hope people can see this at the top, this legend where it's got solid D is D plus 15. Okay, so now what's that D plus 15? So that's what's called the partisan lean. And basically, this is what 538 does. And Cook Report does a little differently, but they look at each district and they look at the voting history. Again, it's historical, it's looking back. And it's typically in statewide elections for those seats. But in a way, it gives you a pretty good indication that if the election were held now based upon history, and that's a big history point, a generic Democrat would win by whatever it is that we're talking about. So notice also that what's happened is that so we've got competitive seats in the middle, and we've got the various categories. There's more Democratic leaning and more Republican leaning and fewer competitive seats in the middle. And those competitive seats are where the real action is, for the most part, is going to be. The strategic problem is that they're all over the place. So they're saying there's 31. There's a couple in California, there's one in Washington, one in Oregon, a couple in Nevada, a couple in New Mexico, one in Texas, one in Nebraska, Kansas, one in Nebraska, 2 in Iowa, et cetera, et cetera. Notice, however, that there's 3 in Michigan. And it turns out there's also 3 in Pennsylvania. So the reason I'm getting at this is that actually our strategy of supporting Michigan, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania has some leverage bit for the House. And every one of these seats is going to be a difficult, one to try to win. Now, these partisan scores are probably on the optimistic side. I think they definitely are on the optimistic side, because projecting forward, we know that things like Biden's popularity are not helping us, but it still gives us a good guide that we do have a good possibility, in my view, or a decent possibility of holding the House. Okay. So now turning to North Carolina, and again, this is why North Carolina is even more important, even more reason why your contribution to the state party helps, is that before the state Supreme Court decision, there were 5 Democrats. Now they're gaining a seat. So there were 5 Democrats. And now there's the prospect of 6 fairly decent opportunities for the Democrats. So that would be adding 1 plus an open seat that's R+3, which is, you know, is a competitive seat. So we could conceivably, you know, if we really, you know, this is an open seat, we have a good chance to pick up 1 seat and probably, you know, some chance to pick up 2. And again, by the way, you know, the majority is basically 5, it's 10 seats, but it's a swing of 5. So, you know, a swing of 5 seats is basically why this hand-to-hand combat is so important. So our goal for, again, to reiterate, is we want to raise $240,000 for the for some voter purge, but mostly for regional organizing directors. We've reached 206 as of today. And just a reminder, they've already started to work. They've already taken the money that we've raised for them, and they're already doing some of the voter purge outreach, and they're also in the process of hiring rods. So we appreciate if you could help us donate, and we'll put the link in the chat so that you can donate for that. And I want to thank those of you who already donated. Believe me, many of people on this call already have. Okay, and then I want to shift to Pennsylvania a little bit, partly because we're going to be having Karen Nussbaum, and I see that she's on the call already. And that's going to be our major focus. We may focus a bit on North Carolina as well, but you know, we definitely want to, you know, Pennsylvania is our highest priority. And again, we had a recent Supreme Court decision. They're losing 1 congressperson, but there are 3 of these highly competitive seats that are up for grabs, not up for grabs. I mean, they haven't, you know, 2 of them have incumbents and so forth. But again, it makes it even more important for us to be supporting the entire effort in Pennsylvania. And to some extent, we have our eye on this area that's north of Pennsylvania, if you will, in terms of where we might be supporting grassroots groups and voter registration as well. So we try to be strategic in that way as well. And okay, again, leading up to Karen's presentation, we've been saying for some time that working class people of all races are very, very important. That's why it's so great that we have this approach from them. But just to give you an idea, in some of our key states, now this is just the white non-college, and the same thing though applies to the same kind of issues often apply to Hispanic and Asian American and Black non-college as well. Look what a high proportion that is in some of our key states. And we know the challenge because we've been losing them. And this is just one example. This is from presidential elections, and Biden did do slightly better than Hillary in getting white working class voters, but we're losing them. We know we lost Latino voters as well. So that's why we're you know, trying to focus on, and we think Working America, by the way, we have done our due diligence. We feel like we have grilled these folks pretty well, and they've been very collaborative and cooperative about talking to us, particularly Michael and me, to drill down on their data and their methodology and so forth. So again, I've showed this before, but you know, those of you who are on this call get it. We got to come together, but we really hope that you will also do outreach to people that you know, and I know many of you do that. So just a reminder that, and trying to talk to your friends that say, I don't know what to do, friends that complain, friends that have, you know, are already engaged, but, you know, maybe could be directed to spending their resources maybe a bit more strategically. All of that is helpful. And just the final motto, in a way, that action is the best therapy for those of us, the people who get into a funk at all. I don't tend to do that, but I know people do that. Okay, so now with that introduction, I'm going to be introducing the wonderful Karen Nussbaum, who's really so collaborative. And, we do have this tradition that there's not a whole lot of, we don't do a whole lot of introduction. We let people introduce themselves, but I will tell you that she is the founding director of Working America, which I think means that she founded it, basically. She probably had some help. She's still on the board, but one of her own particular interests right now is focusing on the volunteer part, because they have a big staff that goes out and does what they do, but she focuses on that. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Karen. And hopefully you're not on mute, Karen. You're on mute, Karen. I can see you're on mute. There you go.
Still on mute.
You're on mute, but we can't hear you.
Here we go.
There we
Okay.
go.
All right,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jim. And thank all of you. You've got a fantastic organization. We are so impressed with what you do. And we're so thrilled that you want to do some of that with us, because we know we're working with a group that really does its homework and produces like crazy. So that's thrilling for us. I helped start Working America because I'm in the labor movement. It was actually John Sweeney, the president of the AFL-CIO, who founded Working America, but I helped put it together, and I am so glad that I had that opportunity, because I think that, for me at least, this work of building a home for working class people where they can get good information, feel some agency, and not listen to the siren song of the right wing is so important and so necessary and effective. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to explain what we do at Working America and what the volunteer program looks like right now. We started Working America in 2003. It's a project, an organization that's affiliated with the AFL-CIO. I was at the AFL-CIO, and we could see what being a union member meant for those working people. It meant that they had both a sense that you could do something about economic issues, and they were getting good information from a trusted messenger, their union. And it meant that union members were voting, even though a lot of them were white working class folks, they were voting 2/3, sometimes 3/4 for the union endorsed candidates, Democrats. But their neighbors were not. Their neighbors were being swept up in the right-wing social agenda. And so we decided that we would try to do our best to reach those people, interrupt their normal source of information, and give them a different path. So we started a door-to-door canvass in 2003 that goes door to door, skipping the doors of union members in working class neighborhoods, talking to everybody. And it goes year round, and talking to them about issues, not politics, asking them, what's the most important thing to you and your family when you think about your future, the economy, and so on. And we get into a conversation with people that interrupts the Fox News, which has happened, going on just beyond the screen door in so many cases. We talk to them about issues. We say, the problem is that big corporations have so much influence over our government and our economy, and that the best solution is to join together, to have strength in numbers. So we'd like you to join tonight as a member of Working America, and you can take this action right away to expand Medicaid in the state, to preserve the public schools, to pass a law about collective bargaining, whatever it is. 2 out of 3 people we talk to, they're strangers, sign up as a member of Working America. They take an action, and then they continue to hear from us forever. And then when it is time for an election, we come back, we talk to them again, And we say, oh, Jim, I talked to you in April and you said retirement was your most important issue. Well, let me tell you where the candidates stand on retirement. That works enormously well. It means that from the beginning, we get the numbers that unions get from their members. And we were beginning to bump up, no matter who they were, whether they were white, working class, gun owning, church-going people, we could move them. Our persuasion rates were right at the very top. And it's because we give them a sense of agency, that they can change their priority. If you can do something about the economy, then they'll vote for someone who's talking about the economy, as opposed to someone who's talking about gun owning. We give them information because they've opted in as a member. They get our information all the time. And then when we come back with information about candidates, they listen. 90% of our members don't belong to any other progressive organization. We've done our match lists, and it makes this big difference. So today we have 3.5 million members in battleground states for the most part. We talk to them at the doors, but during the pandemic, we also developed very effective tools in text and phone and personalized letters, which I'll talk about in a minute. We've got the best persuasion rates in the country, and especially among our members, but we also look at our members and then model people who look like them so that we're persuading them as well. Just to give you a couple of examples, from 2016 to 2020, Working America members moved. They changed their votes to move to our candidates by over 12 percentage points, where the public moved just over 1 point. So it's an astonishing effect. And the cost per vote is the best in the country as well. So that if you looked at 2020, again, the average, if you looked at campaigns and super PACs, the average cost per one vote was $750 to $1,000. For a Working America member, it's $50 to pick up a vote. And if it's Working America doing the work and they're not a member, it's $150. There's about a three times more likely to move a member. So what are we doing now? In 2022, we're working in 9 states, Arizona, Georgia, Minnesota, and most importantly to you all, North Carolina and Pennsylvania. We already have canvassed operations up and running. We'll be starting in Michigan soon, and we'll also run programs in Ohio and Wisconsin. We're going to recruit up to 1 million new members because we know that membership is the key to both a long-term effect and to these high persuasion rates. And we're starting that both with our professional canvas, but our volunteer activities right now are starting with a phone bank to people who we say have been warmed. These are people who have, they're targeted voters who have responded to Working America in the past, to a text, to a phone call. So they're not your usual angry phone bank recipients. And we're talking to them about dignity at work. We're not talking about candidates. We're asking them, you know, have you heard about these recent problems like Amazon workers who don't even have time to use a bathroom, or the factory workers who had to sit in their factory instead of finding safety during a hurricane? What does dignity at work mean to you? And I just did these phone bank calls recently, and they are really good. People are super nice. They want to talk about it. And I'll give you just one example. A woman named Cherie, who said she almost quit her last job because of issues around dignity and respect. She said she had a supervisor who would rail at people in front of their co-workers when it wasn't even warranted, that she thinks that it is time we do something about it, so that she's happy to send a letter to Senator Sinema to ask her to support the Protect the Right to Organize Act, the PRO Act, and she signed up as a member. This is all in a, you know, 10-minute phone call, five to 10-minute phone call. And Cherie agreed to contact 4 or 5 of her friends and get them to write letters to Senator Sinema as well. We're doing that as a way to recruit some of these 1 million new members in targeted states among targeted voters. They're rewarding phone calls, which I know is almost an oxymoron that a phone bank could feel rewarding, but it's a pretty good experience. Next month, we're going to start what we call a front porch focus group, but it really be phone calls to talk to people about climate. We think we've got this long-term problem. Lots of working class people don't prioritize climate because they've got so many more immediate pressing problems. So we want to, as volunteers, have longer conversations with people about climate. What does it mean to them? When does it seem like it's important? So that we begin to build a better understanding, and over the course of the next year and a half, develop a program and a message that speaks to working people about climate change. And then in April, we'll begin our letter writing. We write personalized letters, but you print them. You don't have to handwrite them all. But they speak from my heart to the person that I'm talking to about an economic issue that we know we've already tested and know that it's going to be effective, to targeted voters in battleground states. The letters don't mention candidates. They talk about the issue. And what we found is that it helps prioritize for people that issue over issues like immigration, or whatever else is driving them to the Republicans and the right wing. Our numbers on this are extraordinarily good, that you spend an hour and a half writing 100 letters and you change 2 or 3 votes. That's better than you're going to do on the doors. It's a really high return. And we also know that the effect of sending a letter on an issue lasts through the year, at least for the 6 months, unlike letters that are about the candidates, which really have a very short shelf life and only work at the end of a campaign. So that's what we're doing. We'd love to have you all participate in any part of it or all parts of it. We will be on the doors with volunteer canvases at the beginning, in early April, I expect, in Pennsylvania. And we'd love to work with your organization to put together the best possible volunteer program that will work side by side with our professional program to reach the very people we need to. So again, thank you for giving me this time. And if you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
We have some time for any couple of questions. If anybody wants to raise their hand or just unmute yourself. Hard for me to see everybody, so unmute yourself if you have a question or put it in the chat.
Hi. So it's Jerry Dances, and I've actually been a member of Working America for years. But my question is, do you have some economic questions that you're asking that are related to the economic consequences of COVID?
Oh yeah, we actually worked a lot on COVID during the pandemic, especially. We would engage people by giving them good information about wearing a mask or where to find COVID resources, because it's a way to say, this is something you're worried about. How do we connect you to us? And then I think the Dignity at Work campaign is tied to the economic consequences of COVID, and trying to pass the PRO Act it reaches people in some of the new problems that they're having because of the pandemic. And then finally, we also work with unions on some of their organizing campaigns, and we can put our members into support either on the consumer side or on the worker side.
So I guess I'm especially concerned about people who have lost jobs as a side effect of COVID.
Well, we did a wonderful campaign in Pennsylvania on unemployment insurance, where we focused on Black workers who had lost their jobs because they're so underserved by the unemployment system. And what we did was we reached out to people and had them become effectively community activists. We talked to them about their own unemployment, and then whether they had 3 or 4 friends that were also unemployed. One example is a woman named Crystal in Philadelphia who lost her job, had 5 friends who met every week and did a tailgate party during the middle of the pandemic. She got information from us. She gave it to all of her friends. They all successfully got unemployment insurance. And we did that and we got 30,000 local activists who reached out to their friends, 10,000 specifically on unemployment insurance. And it resulted in $170 million in benefits that they wouldn't have received otherwise. So it's a powerful, real effect on people's lives. It makes them feel attached to the organization, and it's building these networks of unlikely activists with their own friends. And then then those activists talk to their friends about politics as well. We have a goal of having 100,000 community activists who you build around those basic economic issues, getting the child tax credit, getting the unemployment insurance, other basic benefits that a lot of people are losing out on, and then having that create a permanent infrastructure in those communities.
Thank you. There's one question in the chat. I'm not sure, Catherine, what your question is. She just wants a little bit more information about what kind of door knocking you're going to be doing.
Yeah, we do what people often think about as deep canvassing. We go to doors in working class communities. We'll have highly targeted, refined lists of who we're talking to. Well, actually in April, in the spring, we'll still be recruiting members. And that's a great experience. You know, you just get to talk to people about their priority issues and why strength in numbers is important, and they sign up. It's a lot of fun. We have professional teams in these cities, and they'll train us. We will also, as a volunteer group, figure out what kind of training we think is important. We'll be working with a professional leadership team, and we may even go out with, in pairs with the paid canvassers until we get our, sea legs. And then we'll be able to design a program that continues to bring us back into those communities, recruiting members. And we'll be recruiting members through probably the middle of the summer, towards the end of the summer, and then we'll start voter contact.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Is there an overlap in like the area, the region and the state that you're focusing on with the areas that Jim just described as being competitive?
Yeah, we've talked with Jim and Michael about whether we can try to create a program that specifically hits that region, and so we're in discussion to make sure that we can make it as meet your interests and also make it a drivable experience. So it's not too far.
But even independent of us, you're going to have priority for that area around Philadelphia and Northwood,
Yes.
and you're also going to have priority around Pittsburgh.
Yeah, we're going to have a huge operation in the state, and it's in those same kinds of districts that Jim is talking about.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we do persuasion, and that's often in white working class communities, but not exclusively. So in Philadelphia, we've got lots of work that's in Black communities where people often just don't turn out to vote. And in the midterms, that's going to be a very big issue. in a state like Arizona, where you've got a big Latino population. I think about 20% of our targets are Latinos. And that's a group that's really, got cross currents moving. And so persuasion is going to be really important.
Wonderful. So I'm going to take one more question. Ann Cowman has your hand up.
I'm following up on Jerry. Have you found a way to talk to people about inflation in a positive manner? Because that's something that's really scaring people.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, Anne, and about whether we've been hearing that at the door very much and what our response is, but I will find out and I'll let Jim know and we can get it back to you.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you so much, Karen, for just giving your time. We are going to be hearing in a minute from Michal Freedman, who's going to tell us a little bit more about how 31st Streeters can get involved and help Working America. And I'm sure we're going to be in touch with Karen as time goes by, because we're definitely want to support this.
Great. Thanks so much. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Great. Bye now.
Michal, I'm going to let you go next.
Okay, I'm Michal Freedman, and I'm helping to lead the Pennsylvania team. And as Jim said, we have looked a lot into what would be most effective in Pennsylvania, and the Working America people have been great in meeting with us repeatedly and answering endless questions. They do a lot of data analysis to support what they're doing. So much of what we'll do in Pennsylvania will be supporting Working America. And we see that as 3 activities that we will be working with them on. First, first is the second one. First is letter writing. And that's, for people who can't get into Pennsylvania or prefer not to or want to fill in their actions in the state with things that they can do at home. And then we'll also be doing phone banking. And actually, okay, I can see why phone banking is first here. Phone banking is happening now. And there is training going on for it now. And I would say my experience was similar to what Karen described. The people are amazingly friendly and polite on the phone. There's, it's a very easy process in talking to people. And the third activity we'll get involved with is the deep canvassing on the ground in Pennsylvania. And what I would say is, if you want to learn more about these activities, there is a Working America volunteer kickoff on Tuesday, so in 2 days. And I think we can put the link in the chat.
I think it's there, but maybe whoever put it there can put it there again. I think somebody put the link there.
I put it there, but I'm busy, but Dan might be able to put it there again, hopefully. But we'll get it up before too long.
Okay, great.
Okay, so so that would be an opportunity to learn in more detail about each of these activities. And also there are trainings coming up for the phone banking in the first 2 weeks in March. And those also, I'm sure, would be described in the volunteer kickoff. And if people are really eager to do that, I think I can put my email address in the chat and people could get in touch with me if they can't go to the kickoff. The last thing I wanted to say is that what we are planning to do is have a point person for each of the activities. And we will be putting that in the newsletter, who that person is. And then we will also provide information in the newsletter when we're set for the first deep canvassing activity, hopefully in early April. So I'll just put that in the chat and hopefully see many of you in some of these activities.
Great. And Michael, you can put your email in the chat too, just in case people want to just reach out to you. But yes, in upcoming newsletters, you are sure to see information about how to get involved with this. So just read the newsletters, and if you miss them, email me or email Michael and we'll get you connected. Any just general questions or comments about anything that you've heard today? Open it up to the floor. Just you can raise your hand or put it in the chat.
Catherine Hazard has her hand up.
Oh, okay, Catherine.
Hi. Yeah, so I just wanted to see what's the nature of the letters that are going out.
Michael, can you talk to that?
My understanding about the letters is that there's a template for the letter, and with a space in the beginning for the individual, for the person writing the letter to write a personal statement. I think that there's a variety of topics that the letters are on, different issues, and you can choose what issue you want to write on. If it's affordable healthcare, for example, then you would write something from your experience or someone you know's experience about the impact of not having affordable healthcare. And then the rest of the letter is, uniform, goes to everybody. The letters are typed. So once you create your 2 or 3 sentences, then you have a typed document, and all that you do then is handwrite who it's to, sign it, and handwrite the envelope. And Working America has done trials to show that you don't have to have the whole thing handwritten, that this way of doing it is effective in terms of getting the kind of vote return that they are counting on.
So some of this is reaching out to the current members, right? Because they want to kind of keep contact with their current members.
So, yeah, some of it is reaching out to current members, and some of it is to non-members. And I believe in the template part of the letter, there is a reference to something the person can do. And when people who get the letter actually respond and do this thing, then they're recruited to be members as well.
Wonderful. Oh, go ahead, Michael.
I was just going to say that one of the studies they did showed they had about 3 times, when these letters went to members, they got about 3 times as many votes as they did when they went to non-members, and their rates were similar to what other people get when they write to just the public at large for non-members. So when they write to members, they're getting a number of new votes that is impressive.
Thank you. Any other questions, general comments? You can put it in the chat, or you can just unmute.
Sorry, can I just do a follow-up? So, I did a lot of letter writing for Georgia, and the focus there was to provide people applications for doing mail-in ballots. So it's a very focused effort. And I know this is more subject related, but if we're going to try and get our friends to want to get excited about letter writing, it would help to have some to see what the message is. Because I can't, it's hard for me to imagine motivating people I know to join a letter writing campaign if I don't have a good sense of what the message is. So maybe once you have the templates, could we maybe post that on the website or share it or somehow?
I think when we have a point person who I think we have for this issue, and they have, and we're closer to April when this project starts, yeah, then we can have more information go out to the membership that makes it clear what's involved.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else before we say goodbye?
Now's your
All right.
chance. Come on, put it to us.
We really appreciate everybody who donated today or before, or anybody who's going to donate tomorrow. We really want to get to our 240 goal for North Carolina so that we can say hallelujah, job well done, and move on to Georgia.